Unnecessary intro song to totally waste your time. You know, you can just call them Germans. You can. White human beings called Germans. Human beings just called Germans. You know? White Christian human beings born in Germany. Those are the people that were fighting in World War II. Some of them. Those are some of the people. And they were fighting communists. Right? All over. Lots of people were fighting communists. We know who started communism. A man named Karl Marx and Engels. A couple of Jews from Germany. Communism sucks. I don't know about you, but it's terrible. It's anti-white. It's certainly anti-Christian. It's violent. It doesn't happen without violence. It's a direct threat to every single human being in the world. It's an ideology that has killed hundreds of millions of people. And the white Christian Germans, human beings, were fighting it. Right? And you want to know how many of them died? Almost 7 million of them died. Almost 7 million Germans, white Christian Germans fighting communism, died. But that's not all. Just all over, people were fighting communism. It wasn't just Germans. In fact, people in Russia were fighting this small handful of Bolsheviks, you know, led by some Jews, to take over Russia, which was about 85% white Christian at the time. And a lot of those white Christians didn't want to be taken over. And so they were starved by the Bolsheviks. They were murdered. About 70 to 80 million people died in World War II for different reasons. I can't get into every single reason. But amongst them, good estimate, about 40 million of them, of the people who died in World War II, were white Christians. Right? And for whatever reason, the United States, mostly white, mostly Christian, got in and fought the war initially, got in because of Japan, but ended up going and defeating the white Christian Germans who were fighting communism. America decided to help them, help the communists win against Germany, who was fighting communism. The white Christians in Germany, you know, the white Christians in Germany never represented a threat to white Christians in America. In fact, I think there were 17 million people descended from white Christians in Germany, in the United States. So I don't remember the guy that was the name of the guy that was leading up the charge in Germany. What was his name? He had a funny little mustache. I can't remember his name. They don't talk about it enough. You never hear his name, you know. And the party, what was it? It started with an N. I can't remember. The N-word. We'll just call it the N-word. Because you can't talk about World War II and you can't talk about the 40 million white Christians that died without being called an N-word and without people talking about the guy whose name I can't remember, the guy with the mustache. Call him Bob. It's a white name, Bob. Chris. Maybe his name is Chris Christian. You know? Yeah, you can't talk about that. The only thing you can talk about when we talk about World War II, you can't talk about the white Christians that died. You only can talk about the 6 million Jews who allegedly died. And it said that they didn't even die fighting, so they weren't even fighting. They were just apparently innocently going about their business, doing Jewish things, spinning dreidels, making bagels, you know, just being good old. They weren't anything like Karl Marx. They weren't publishing porn. They weren't overrunning the banking industry. They weren't sitting high on the hog or taking advantage while white Christians were suffering after World War I. They weren't doing anything like that. They were just wonderful, minding their own business. Small percentage of Jews in Germany. Just most of them, according to records, were just shiny, happy, wonderful people. Good neighbors. There wasn't anything about transgenderism going on then. There weren't any brothels. At least you don't hear about them. I actually heard there were. But what do I know? I was born white, a white human being, into a Christian family. But anyway, what's interesting is that for so long, first we go to war. We're a white Christian nation, and we go to war against a white Christian nation fighting communism, and we allegedly help them win against the white Christian nation, and then the other white Christian nation just somehow gets taken over by these Bolsheviks. A very small handful of this group take over Russia for a long time, and it becomes a communist country. And a bunch of white Christians are starved to death there. Okay, where's this victory? I'm trying to find this victory. We supposedly won. America, the white, America didn't suffer the most deaths. America, only about 500,000 white Christians in America gave up their lives to fight, not just the white Christians in Germany. They were fighting Japanese people too. But we don't even talk about the Japanese thing. We don't talk about how they killed 12 million people in China. And for some reason, this Bob guy, this guy with the mustache, and what was that? What was this party? The N-word? The N-words. They get front and center stage. They're the new epitome of evil. And we only hear about World War II through people who owned the media, the publishing, the papers, the history books, the textbooks. It's weird that when you look at Hollywood and all this media, you find that that's all funneled through a small tribe. Not all of it, most of it though. Closely related. And what does that small tribe think? Well, if you look at history, let's take, you just look at what the books they wrote. So we get all the books from them, and they're saying that the books are that white human Germans, Christian, just rounded them off the streets and from the rest of Europe because they looked funny and they didn't like their dreidel spinning and the bagels and the porn, But anyway, they just tossed them into ovens and burned them, killed them for no reason. No reason. There's no reason. It's just racial hatred. That's it. Because they're stinky. It's pheromones. We don't like the pheromones. But let's say that happened, There are some accounting things if you look into. You go, oh, really? 6 million? Are you sure? Because some of it says it's maybe lower. Some people say 250,000, which is a lot. But, in 80 million, 250,000, I don't know. These numbers are quite a big difference. 40 million Christians died, and you say 6 million Jews. Now, why are we talking about the Jews again? Why are they highlighted? Why isn't the Holodomor highlighted? Why? Oh, because you guys have the books and you made the movies. Oh, okay. So we get it. Let's go from the movies. So in this movie, in these stories that you've written, white Christians just viscerally hated Jews for no reason. They're just jealous. Jealous. That's what they were. They were jealous because Jews were the best at everything. And so they killed 6 million. Okay, let's just say that's true. Let's say that all that's true. It seems like you would really, really hate white Christians. Doesn't it seem like you'd, if that's true, then wouldn't it be also true that you would want to eliminate white Christianity wherever it is? It would be true, right? Why wouldn't it be? You'd want to save your tribe, your innocent, beautiful, wonderful tribe that doesn't do anything but make pickles and bagels and dreidels. That's it, you know? And give us loans at good interest rates. You know, that's all we're doing. And cool movies, lasers, good shit, good movies about how white Christians are bad. You know, so we're taking you at your word. You hate us, and you want us to die, and you should, right? Because if we're taking your side of the story, why wouldn't we? So, can you just admit that you hate white Christians? And can we stop with the Judeo-Christian overlapping values nonsense? If white Christians that were fighting World War II were the enemy, aren't they still the enemy? Did they somehow magically not become the enemy? Was it just because the U.S., these 400,000, these 500,000 people went over and died? Because I don't remember seeing the gratitude. I can't remember seeing a bunch of movies that are so grateful to white Christians. You know, this small group. It's almost all anti-white Christians. In fact, there was an election just a couple of days ago where I saw a bunch, you know, in New York, 30% of the Jews in New York voted for a guy who is anti-white, anti-Christian, and he's a communist. So the war is raging on. There's still a war against anti-white Christians, and it seems to me like this small tribe that has a real serious grievance, according to their own stories, a real grievance against white Christians, is helping to get this guy elected, even though they're claiming that, oh, no, he's a Muslim and he's anti-Jews and we hate him. Well, then why did George Soros back him? Why did the Jews in New York, why did the hot girls of New York, why did all these groups back this communist mayor? Was it, because he's anti-white Christian? And the fact that maybe he's anti-Jew, that's no problem because it's worth it in the end because the enemy of your enemy is your friend. I'm just trying to figure out how, mathematically speaking, how it could possibly be for Jews to look at white Christians as anything other than the way they have portrayed them in stories of World War II. That guy with the mustache and the N-word and the N-words. Because they still use that word a lot. It's constant. You can't get away from it. If you spend a day, if you spend a day of your life in a big city walking around in society, in American society, that means connected to the internet or in a big city, you can probably go camping and not hear the N-word or hear about Bob, the guy with the funny mustache. You can probably go camping and not hear about it. But if you're in society, you're going to hear about it because the beef rages on. It definitely rages on on X. If you so much as mention anything or question this historically perfect, accurate portrayal of World War II that has been brought to you by Bob or Chaim Horowitz, if you question that, well, then you are an N-word. But you are anyway. So that's the thing. That's the thing, is you are anyway. You know, it's the silent part. You're already, because you're a white Christian. And that's bad. And that's bad. Every book about World War II confirms it. You just read them. You go right ahead and you read. That hasn't changed. Okay? And this tribe, for the most part, funded the election of an outright communist jihadist. You know? I had a conversation about this with somebody, and they said, "Why are we talking about this?" I talked to one of my friends in Israel, actually, about this, and she said, "Can't we just bemoan this together without it having to be about the Jews or Israel?" And I was like, "I would like to. That would be great." But the problem is he has overlapping goals. He hates white Christians. He's a communist. And he won in New York City. If Jews can't control New York City, I mean, I said, you can't talk about New York City without talking about Jews. How do you do that? You know? They funded him, for crying out loud. But why? But why? But why? But why? Why would they? He's an Islamist. Jews hate Islam. Can't you see, Merkley, you stupid idiot? Islam is the broom of Israel. So says a rabbi that I saw in a clip the other day. It makes perfect sense. And what are they brooming? What are they sweeping? What are they sweeping away? What's Islam sweeping away? They're sweeping away white Christians. Because make no mistake about it, the enemies, according to the Jews, according to the stories that they have written and they have brought to us, you know, since World War II and before, the enemy of Judaism is white Christianity. You know? And there were some white Christians in Germany a long time ago that I think they understood this. I mean, it's hard to think about because you have to wade through what you've been taught, what you've been told through these sources. You know, they told you this one story over and over and over again. Movies, music, everything has been telling you the same story. They don't come out and say it's white Christianity, but that's what they're saying. You know, that's what the story is. Even the Bible tells that story, even the New Testament. They killed Christ, one of their own, allegedly. I don't know if I'm a true believer. In studying this kind of stuff, a lot of these white German Christians in World War II, and that guy Bob with the funny mustache, some of them thought that Christianity was actually kind of an invention of the Jews, because Jesus was a Jew, and the whole Christian thing was a way to water down more white tribal type stuff, pagan things that predate Christianity. And I don't know. I wasn't there. I'm not even a religious person, you know. But I was born into a tribe that I didn't choose. People from other tribes have rejected me. I tried to be part of another tribe. I tried to make a tribe of individualists. I tried to belong to that one, but that one didn't work out so well either because nobody ever got anything done, you know. It was just like nothing gets done. And everybody, no matter how much I tried to be on a different tribe or say, hey, I'm friends with this tribe, that would just push me back onto this white Christian tribe. I'm not allowed to get off of it. I'm the N-word, no matter what I do. You know? Lord knows if you try to say, I'm not an N-word, I'm not part of that tribe, and you go join Antifa or some other thing and try to join the Black Panthers, they'll giggle and snickle at you and treat you like shit, and you'll kiss their shoes. Do all these Nancy Pelosi humiliation rituals. You know, but that's not for me. That doesn't appeal to me at all. So I'm just kind of realizing that it might be, instead of fighting God, because as far as I can tell, God put me on this tribe, nature, whatever you want to call it, I didn't choose it. Nature chose it. And I'm pretty amazed by nature, I'll be honest. I look around, I see the pigeons and the crows and squirrels and the rats and the bats, and the clouds, the hummingbirds. And I think it's pretty damn amazing. However nature did it, I'm impressed with nature. And I'm thinking it's unwise to fight nature. I'm starting to think that fighting nature is dumb. Nature gave me my tribe. Nature put me on a tribe. Other tribes hate me. I don't know why. I don't know why nature created that. That's kind of baffling to me, but it can be kind of beautiful in a way too, I had a situation where a wonderful little pigeon, couple of pigeons that live in my light well. I walked up the stairs, coming from outside, and there's one of these pigeons, probably just about 4 weeks old, and he's splayed open, and his guts are hanging out of him, and he's dead on his back, and that fucking hawk, and I just knew it. The hawk just had probably flown off a second before I saw that, because I reached out, I opened the window, grabbed the pigeon. Pigeon was still warm, and I looked down into the light well, and his brother was down there dead too, the same way. So this hawk had flown into the light well, found these two guys, and had himself a half lunch on these two pigeons. And I grabbed them, cleaned them out of the light well. I took them upstairs, took them into the kitchen, feathered them up, gutted them, cooked them up, and let Dum Dum eat them. And it was weird. I didn't like it. It was strange, but there was a little bit of a spiritual experience I had, because I knew these guys. I know their parents, Blinky is their mom. Warpy is their dad, And they just got eaten by this hawk. And I can't hate the hawk. I do. I hate him. But I don't, I see him. He lands right outside my window. And I think, if I had a slingshot, I'd fucking get rid of that guy in a minute. And I'm just like, he's living his part in his world. He's a big, beautiful, majestic bird. And he just killed a couple of my friends, There's a beauty there. It was beautiful. I mean, I was just pulling out the little heart of this little guy and just looking at it. It boggles my mind. Just cleaning those birds to cook them up for Dum Dum, because I didn't want to waste them. I thought, do I throw? I in a way, I thought maybe I should just let the hawk finish him. But there was other birds that live in that light well, and I didn't like the traumatic thing of this hawk coming back. Oh, and I didn't even tell the part where when I was picking up the little dead bird with his guts splayed out, Blinky was right there, just on the other side of the light well, looking at me like, what are you going to do? What's going on? Just sitting there looking at her offspring, And I was like, sorry, Blinky. I know this is tough to watch. And then she kept watching as I went down and grabbed the other one from the bottom, picked it up with this little grabber thing that's for a fireplace. You turn logs, I picked her up, and Blinky was looking at me like, I don't think Blinky thought I did it, but it was just kind of awkward to have Blinky watching me be the body retrieval. And she flew off. She's back. She still comes to the porch. I mean, birds are resilient, but you put it in human terms, it's just like, man, it's a bummer for Blinky. She sits on these two birds every day, cares for them, and she sees a hawk, just gut them open. Anyway, and I take them upstairs, and I thought about throwing the pigeons on the roof of the house next door and letting the hawk have his. And I don't want to encourage the hawk, so I thought, what do I do? Do I bury him? I don't want to do that. It's a waste. So I thought, let me be an Indian here. Let me just cook these guys up, I ain't gonna lie, I tasted it. It tastes like chicken, But, it's too small, too scrawny. So I just fried them up and chopped them into little pieces, and Dum Dum ate them up like there was no problem. So now Dum Dum is part pigeon. And I am too, because I ate a little tiny piece as I cooked it up. So yeah, nature's ugly, If you're a pigeon, you're a pigeon. If you're a hawk, you're a hawk. No disrespect to hawks, no disrespect to pigeons, no disrespect to Jews, No disrespect to blacks or anybody else. It's just like, God made us this way, nature made us this way, and there's a beauty to it. And there's nothing wrong. You can call me an N-word as much as you want to. I don't care. I stopped being afraid of that probably in 2016 when I got called an N-word for defending Donald Trump. I'm now to the point where I'm not only not afraid of being called it, I now realize that the white Christian Germans had no beef with me. And I probably had no beef with them. And they had a beef with the tribe that was within their ranks. I wasn't there. I don't know. All the books that seemed to come down the pipe seemed to be sorted and sifted through that small tribe with whom they had a beef. So it's kind of like, how am I supposed to glean truth from that? It seems like a one-sided representation. And that particular tribe isn't so nice to me. They're not nice to me. I have friends from that tribe, totally, who I love. So I'm not judging an entire tribe, but based on the actions of, let's put it this way, I'm not judging individuals in a tribe based by the actions of the tribe in whole, and I will extend that, that courtesy to anybody from any tribe. I'll be friends with anybody in any tribe, but I'm done fighting nature and pretending I'm not part of that tribe or feeling ashamed that I'm on that tribe. I didn't even choose it. And even in saying that, I didn't even choose it. It seems to be like this chicken shit way of distancing myself from it. But I don't need to. The hawk is beautiful. The pigeon is beautiful. The insides of that pigeon were amazing. I mean, it's going to sound like Jeffrey Dahmer type shit, but I mean, it's just like, just cleaning that out in the sink and just looking, and I was just thinking, these birds, this little bird, and I was looking at the digestive tract, and I realized, there's a lot of rice in there. So this bird was actually eating hard food. It wasn't just taking crop milk from its parents. But so somebody else is feeding it. They're getting food from somewhere else, but I could see food that came from my deck too. I was like, look at that miracle. It's just like the parents get it, give it to them. It goes through this, and then you find this the gizzard, and it's just this hard little thing, and it's so hard. And somehow it takes these hard grains and just grinds them up and turns them into this little pigeon poop that you see coming out the other end. It's just the technology, just the unfathomable beauty of that system that just grows out of an egg. That these cute, beautiful birds just sit there and mother, and the father, and they take turns sitting on the nest and with such care, and they're building their nests and getting the twigs, and I can see the pine needles from my tree, and seeing all of that, and and the hawk just rips them open and just starts eating them like their lunch. It's like, wow. And those little birds, they didn't get any chance to even live. Their whole life was, what was it? From conception, being these little embryos in these eggs, to this death, probably a total of 2 months tops, That was the end. Just having a hawk come down and grab you with its claw, then put its beak into your soft little chest and start just ripping off pieces of flesh while you're sitting there going, wait, why are you doing this to me? I don't know. Why was Mom Donnie elected as a mayor? An outwardly anti-white, anti-Christian, jihadist, communist. Why was he elected mayor of New York City? Why did a bunch of white girls vote for him? You can either look at the horror, or you can embrace the beauty of the whole thing, and the fight goes on, and there's beauty in peace and there's beauty in war. You know? I don't want to embrace the beauty of war. And I do want to fight against it. I want to avoid it. But when it finally gets there, you know, you fight like hell. You just say, no. You're not going to rip off a piece of my flesh off my chest without me putting up a fight. And if you get me, if you stab my eye out and I'm there and I'm pinned and you're ripping the flesh off my chest, I'm going to at least be in awe of it. I'm going to at least look at the flesh. I'll ask you to take out my heart and see if I can look at it beating while you're holding it, you know, Bruce Lee style. I don't know, I've gotten way off track. That was quite a fucking, what do you mean? What are you talking about? I don't want to die. I don't want my white Christian tribe members to die. I don't want Mom Donnie to come on here and turn this whole fucking thing into communism. I don't like communism. Communism is enforced by the gun. There's no freedom there. There's no upward movement. It's all lateral. It's all sneaking around. It's all whispers. It's all payoffs to the local thug. It's like, it's worse. I mean, it's worse than what we have now. I promise you it's worse than what we have now. And anyway, it's not a bad thing when somebody calls you the N-word, is what I'm trying to say. It's what they're really calling you. They're just calling you a white Christian. And you know what? White Christians are pretty fucking cool. If you're a white Christian, I'm looking at you and I'm giving you a big thumbs up and I'm saying, I fucking love you. Thanks for listening. Unnecessary outro song to totally waste more